I guess what I would say to government, and this was a big thing, I guess I saw in the UK, that was very powerful about DataGov UK, was that they only took open data and they didn't need to get all of open data. They moved, they didn't have agreement from all of government when they started that everyone was going to open up their data. They said one of the reasons for building the catalogue was not because the catalogue was useful but not that useful. What was good about it was a way to go, if you want your stuff to be in this cool thing we're doing, that's got Tim Berners-Lee involved or whatever, you've got to open up your data. So that's, I guess, my big thing is you don't have to do all data. You know, obviously, try and focus on data that's useful. You know, there's clearly higher value and lower value data, but don't try and do all of it at once and get policy agreement all at once. And you know, because then you can get the ball rolling and you can give exemplars. I mean, I think that's the thing. I was really just every time I see people speak, it's amazing. I see new examples that are cool and bad examples, but that's what's so powerful into policymakers saying, look what could be built. If the state's there.
Perhaps everybody in the room should join in.
Yes.
From our perspective, I think for government is to make sure that everybody is to build a narrative so that everybody understands it. I mean, they're there to represent their population, their citizens, and therefore they have to kind of they should make people realise that we are in a data-driven society. They have to kind of understand, and they've got to, it's almost they've got to embrace it across all sectors. So it's kind of almost right through schools all the way upwards. So there's a realisation that we move into data-driven society. Value and innovation will be based on data, and that by releasing data, what you're doing is you're almost like driving the Netherlands forward. They'll become a more efficient society, and I think there's great benefits to be had in that.
That's a tough question. First, I would say that government should understand that public sector doesn't work as one. So basically, dictating something will not happen. Because open data is a process, it's not a rule, it's not something you can force on. So I would really support the process approach, which I think the Rufus mentioned, that just start it and see it as a step-by-step thing. Then it's necessary to show the carrot and use the carrot so that the process involves rewards for the ones who do it. It can be fame and fortune, it can be funding, and maybe especially since we talk about government, I think figures are important. You should really get your numbers together. I mean, governments basically work with money. It's all about financing what governments do, in fact. So I think it's necessary to show the sort of possible scenarios of what happens if you do this, if you do that, what's the value. And there is hidden cost involved in the current system, and one of the ones which would be interesting to tackle also probably in Netherlands is how much energy is spent in shuffling information back and forth between closed data sources within the government. I do know, for example, in Finland, that the army takes a dump of all the population of Finland from the citizen registry twice a year, and why they do that is that because the register charges the army for all the updates. If they have a constant pipeline open between the two data systems, or if we have just one data system, it will be very costly. So instead they have this 3-day mayhem of making a huge dump of the population of Finland into another server. There are umpteen such cases where data is being sub-optimized to avoid costs of internal charging.
Maybe what I will respond is, it's a bit contradictory with the approach that I actually support, which is if you want to start, go for the low-hanging fruits before everything. Now, if governments are really serious about the long-term effects, they have to do the opposite as well, which is create the demand, create the social demand for public data. And that includes something that doesn't really exist yet, which is a culture of data. culture of data, tools that might enable a lot of people to use those data. This is, for example, a very good argument that's in a survey everybody should have read by Tim Davis, Practical Participation in the UK. Very good, easy to read document that provides a lot of typologies, especially, and with a special emphasis on who can actually understand, read, manipulate data in a meaningful ways without having to undergo years of specialized studies in computing or statistics or a culture of data, tools that allow that. So at the same time, you want government to be as passive as possible so that it can be quick. You want it to be open, so you don't want it to monopolize the production of meaning of the data or representations, but you probably want government to actually become proactive in this direction, because otherwise there is a real risk of capture by a number of players. And I think somebody heard Tim Davis and wanted to speak. I hope it's Tim Davis.
One person who wanted to ask the last question.
Yes, I think that's I want to reach out to